Hi, it's Mia and welcome back to my booktube. So today I'm going to share with you my favorite reads from 2020. 2020 has been a crazy year for all of us, but I managed to read 70 books, which was actually my record in all these years that I've been reading and keeping track on Goodreads. And mostly it was because I wasn't working, because usually I do have a full-time job, so I have less time to read. But in 2020, I wasn't working for most of the year, so I had more time to dive into my never-ending TBR and to just read all the books that I wanted. And also, during normal years, when I do work and have a full-time job, I don't really like to listen to audiobooks. I just haven't really found the ones that I really enjoy, and they kind of get me bored. I'm starting to listen to one or two while I do some boring admin stuff at work, but usually I'm not a big fan. So because of that, reading for me means actually sitting down with a book and reading it. So because of that, my maximum books that I read was 70, but I still think it's quite impressive and I'm very proud of myself. So all the books that I'm going to show you are books that I have read in 2020. Not all of them were released in 2020. Some of them were, but others weren't. So it's just gonna be a mix, but these are all the books that I read in 2020. So as I couldn't really come up with how to categorize the books that I read, I'm just going to be using my Goodreads app, and I'm just gonna scroll down to the bottom to January and go through my list of books that I read and share my favorites with you. The first book that I want to share with you that I really enjoyed in 2020 is Fake It Till You Break It, and it was by Meagan Brandy. She's the author of the Boys of Brayshaw series, but at this point in time, at 2020 January, I haven't read that series yet. So Fake It Till You Break It was the first book from her that I read, and I really enjoyed it. Her writing style was very good, and the book was a real page turner. I know a lot of people told me that her other book series is much better and much more enjoyable, but at this point, me starting to read her work, I was completely blown away, and I really enjoyed the plot of Nicole and Demi. So it was a high school romance, fake dating. So Nicole offered for Demi to be her fake boyfriend so that she can make his teammate jealous. And it was a very fun story and I really enjoyed it. So I would definitely recommend you reading it. And then the next book on the list that was also released in January is Now Open Your Eyes by Nicole Fiorina. So if you know me, you know that Nicole is one of my favorite authors and I'm obsessed with her series Stay With Me. And I really loved, this is the last book in the series and I really loved it. This is the conclusion of Mia's and Ollie's story. And Ollie is definitely my favorite throughout this entire series. And in this book, we get to see a little bit different part of him. And I just love all of the parts of him. And this story was just beautiful. And I was really happy how it all ended and how Nicole wrapped up everything. So I would definitely recommend the entire series. But this book and the last one was my favorite one ever, and Ollie is one of my top book boyfriends ever. I don't think anyone will ever be able to surpass him. So it was definitely an amazing read. The next book that I want to talk about is Regretting You by Colleen Hoover. As I already mentioned in my previous videos, Colleen Hoover is one of my favorite authors, and this was the only book I read by her in 2020. So Regretting You is a dual point of view, a mother and a daughter, and basically it shows you different point of views of the same story and how people interpret different things. It was very enjoyable, and I do feel like it was very interesting and even educational just to see the mother-daughter relationship and how it evolved. And I just really enjoyed it because I'm very close with my mom, so I could definitely relate to a lot of things in this book. And then the next book on my list is actually a huge book. It's Chain of Goals by Cassandra Clare, and it's the first part of the Last Hour book series. So this book series comes right after the Infernal Devices. And the main hero is James Herondale, Will and Tessa's son. So sorry for the spoiler if you haven't read the Infernal Devices. I just realized. But yeah, so obviously in style of Cassandra Clare, you have a bunch of point of views and stories in here, and they all just tie up very nicely, and it was very enjoyable, and I can't wait for the next book. I am obsessed with the entire Shadowhunter universe. I basically own all the books I think that ever exist, and I read all of them, even the ones that I really didn't enjoy that much, like Magnus's stories, but still it's a very good addition to the series, and I just love how she's building the world and how every story has a connection to a previous series or little Easter eggs. It's just amazing how she does it. And I even met her once when she had a signing in Waterstones in London, and it was like the best day of my life. So definitely I can't wait to read the next one that comes out in March. After reading Chain of Gold, I actually reread the entire Infernal Devices series because I just miss the characters so much. So definitely you will see a lot of rereads in 2020 because, as I already mentioned, 2020 was kind of a hectic and stressful year, and whenever I'm like stressed and I can't really focus, I just like to reread old stories and just get back to the feeling of how it was before, because I already know the story, so I'm like less worried of what's gonna happen and I can just enjoy it and get lost in the story again. So they're also in my Goodreads, and I counted them as like books that I read, but I didn't read them this year for the first time, but I'm still gonna mention it because I really love that series. Next book on my list is actually a book series. I read all the books in basically one sitting, and I was super obsessed with them when I was at home, and it was over Easter, and it's the one and only Lucia Franco's Off Balance series. Wait, I don't think you can say it like that. This is a taboo romance, I would say, because it's age gap between a coach and a gymnast, and it's very enjoyable. So I think the girl is 16 in the edited version, so that she's above the age of consent, but I know there was a lot of controversy, but I don't really care about it because I'm just so in love with these books. I know my boyfriend can attest to it because I do not shut up about these books, and I even made him buy all of them because I just love it so much. And Kova is literally, oh my god, I just love him. And the thing about him is that I was actually team Hayden. Hayden's another gymnast, and he has this boy next door vibe. He's super cute, and I just love him so much. I really want him to have his own book. So if anyone wants to help me get Hayden his own book, please help me out. I was actually team Hayden all the way until the last book. And then the last book came out, and it just broke my heart. I was literally reading it on the plane, and I was crying, and it was COVID time, so I had to wear a mask. And I was wearing my mask, crying, and just couldn't breathe because the mask was on my face, and I was crying, and the guy next to me was just staring at me like I was some crazy person crying at the airplane and reading a book. But I was like not ashamed at all because the book was so good. It was worth every single tear. The next book series that I want to mention is, I already mentioned it I think at the beginning. So I read Fake It Till You Break It in January, and after that, finally around May, I managed to pick up Boys of Brayshaw series, and I read the first 3 books in like one sitting as well. I was just so obsessed with them. They were amazing. Like, now I understand why everyone said that Fake It Till You Break It was different. It definitely was different, but the writing of Boys of Brayshaw was just over the top. I loved all the 3 boys. Like, Royce is my favorite still to this point. Like, you cannot tell me that Royce is not the best, but I just love them, and Draven was amazing. So I read those 3 books, and then immediately after I reread them because I just loved it so much that I had to reread it. It doesn't count in my Goodreads gold, but I remember finishing, I think it was Reign of Brayshaw, and I was just sitting there, and I just went back and I picked up the first book again. So that's how good it was. And then shortly after that, Be My Brayshaw came out, which is Captain's book. So the first 3 books is Raven and Maddox's love story basically, and then that trilogy ends, and then you have like a Captain story that you can read as a standalone, but also it's part of the series. And then I read that one, and then Royce's book came out not that long ago, and honestly, like, Royce's book was the one I was waiting for since the moment I picked up the first book, and I so wasn't disappointed. I unfortunately do not own the paperbacks, but those are the next ones that I'm definitely going to get because I really want to have them on my shelves. They are just amazing and I can't wait to reread them again. From now on, I think I basically have only series left to mention, so I will try and mention them in order that I read them, but maybe not. So we'll just see how it goes. So basically, there's another book series that I got obsessed with over 2020, and that's Veronica Aiden's Sinners and Saints series. So I picked up actually the second book first, which was Tempting Devil, which was Devlin's story, and Devlin and Blair's story, and I loved it. It's dark bully romance and it's high school and it's just so amazing and I was blown away. And then I was reading that book and there was this character called Lucas who kept like popping up and disappearing, and he had this girlfriend and it was so amazing. And then I realized that Lucas has his own book, so I just went ahead and read Lucas's book after, and I literally became so obsessed with that book. Like, I'm not even joking. I know I said I'm obsessed with every single book, but this one is next level. Like, I said that Ollie and Royce are my favorite book boyfriends, but Lucas is in the top 3 as well, and I just love him so much. I'm not a fan of bully romances, and definitely what he does is taking it to a whole other level, but it's just so good and the writing is amazing, all the angst in it. And this is one of the books actually that I listened to the audiobook as well, because I just love the story so much, and the audiobook was done so well that I could even listen to it after reading the book. So I actually have the paperback and it's actually signed too because I just love it and I had to buy it and have it in my collection. Next ones are the ones I already mentioned. It's L.J.Shen's All Saints High series. I read all 3 books and I really enjoyed them. They were just amazing, especially Broken Night. It really broke my heart and I was crying like crazy on it. But I don't own the paperback, so unfortunately I can't show you. Started with the All Saints High series because I just felt like reading some high school romance because I just love high school and I just really enjoyed reading it. And the first book that I read was Pretty Reckless. I even own the paperback because I really enjoyed it. Obviously, I picked it up first because Daria used to do ballet in it, and I just love ballet, so I picked it up. But then I became obsessed with the entire series, and I don't own the other 2 books in the series, which is Broken Night and Angry God. You probably saw the covers all over Instagram. I remember when I picked them up to read, I was remembering the covers that I already saw them when they were coming out. Basically, these 3 books are the children of the male characters of Sinners of Saint. So what I did was I read Pretty Reckless, then I read Ruckus, I think that's how you pronounce it. So that was Dean and Rosie's story. Before I read Broken Night, which was Night is Rosie's and Dean's son. So I wanted to like read first Dean's story before I jump into Night. And then I read Vicious, which is obviously Vicious and Amelia's story, before I read Angry God, which is Monk's story, and Monk is their son. So yeah, it's a bit complicated, but these are the books I read, but Broken Night and Pretty Reckless were my favorites of it. So you should definitely check it out if you like some nice high school romances. I think Pretty Reckless is enemies to lovers, and the Broken Night is friends to lovers, but they do become enemies over the part, but their story is just heartbreakingly beautiful. So even with all the controversy going around, I would definitely recommend you reading Ruckus and Broken Night because they're just a masterpiece. The next book is What Do You Want by K.Dosal McLendon, and this is the 3rd book in the What Do You Want series, and so this is Liam's book. And in the series, you have Clary's book, that's the first one. Then you have Cole's book and you have Liam's book, which is the 3rd one. And they're triplets, and it's basically every single book is their own story. It can be read as a standalone, but also it's an interconnecting series. And even after the first book, Liam was my favorite. I was just so obsessed with him. He's part of my top book boyfriends, so I just love him. And I was super excited when this book was coming out. I was just over the moon happy, and I couldn't wait to read his story because he's my favorite and he's so cute and he's like a goofball, but at the same time he's such a complex character. And his story with Vanessa, it was just amazing because I knew that even the goofball he is like a strong heroine. I don't know where I stopped. So yeah, Liam's book is the best. He's my favorite book boyfriend ever. He's like on the top with Ollie, Royce, and Lucas. The next book that I really enjoyed in 2020 was The Brightest Night by Jennifer L. Almentrout. And this is the third part, again, of the Origin series, which is a spin-off of the Luxon series. So me being me, before I jumped into this book that I was waiting for a year, I read the first two books in the series again, just to make sure that I remembered everything correctly, because it was a year of a wait between all the books. So I just wanted to make sure that I prepared for it. And I even took it one step further. I read The Opposition, which is the last Lux book in the series, just to make sure that I capture everything. This series is a spin-off for Luke. I think it's Luke. Yeah, okay. We're just gonna go with Luke. So, and he's one of the like most badass origins ever. And it's his and Evie's story. And it develops throughout the entire series. And it's just amazing. And I was really curious to just see all the old characters and just to see how their love story is evolving. And yeah, I really like this. And I know I mentioned in my first video that I don't really like fantasy and things that are not like mundane and normal. But I am definitely obsessed with the Lux series and with the Shadowhunters. So those two I think get a pass because they're just amazing. The next one is a Christmas book that I read, I think back in November, which is Jingle Wars by Veronica and R.Holmes. So this one was just amazing. I love Christmas and Christmas movies and like all these things that give you warm, fuzzy Christmas feelings. We still have our Christmas decoration up because we didn't want to take them off. So this book is actually between a small B&B owner and a big holiday resort owner. They joined this Jingle Wars, which is like a TV competition about like Christmas. And it's just so much fun. The chemistry between the two characters is over the top and it's just amazing. And their entire love story is just like reading a very cute Christmas movie. And I am so obsessed with this, honestly. It was the best read of the year, I think. The next book is Astonish Me by Maggie Shipstead. And it's a ballet book. I know you guys were waiting for me to show finally a ballet book. And this was actually when I was writing my second book. And basically, this is about an American dancer who had an affair with a Russian dancer, and she helped him escape Russia and deflict to America. And after that, so after many years, they meet again when her son actually becomes a ballet dancer. And you see all these secrets unfold, and all the plot is just amazing, and the dancing is very nicely written in it. So I read it as an inspiration for my own book because I had a similar situation going on in it. So I just wanted to see how others were solving it and how two characters were interacting. And it was actually a very nice read and I enjoyed it, even though there was a lot of like Balanchine reference in it, which I'm not really familiar with because I never studied Balanchine technique, but it was definitely a very nice and enjoyable read. So if you want to pick up some ballet books, then you should definitely pick this one up and give it a try. And then there are two other books that I read not only once this year, but I think probably 100 times, which are both of my books, which is Journey of a Butterfly and Journey of a Falcon. So I obviously wrote these books and I reread them 10 million times. And I did add them to my Goodreads reading goal because I do think they count as I did read them and write them. So Journey of a Butterfly is the first book in the series. It's called Thornfield Academy, the series. And it's basically about a boarding school in England where Alex and Kat are studying ballet as well as other subjects. And basically in the book, Catherine is a dance prodigy and she wants to pursue professional career, while Alex, her best friend and dance partner, really doesn't want to have a professional career because of some hidden issues that we don't yet know. And basically when they both go to Thornfield after Kat loses a bet to Alex, they go through many different life lessons that they haven't get the other chance to experience when they were sheltered in their own little ballet bubble before, and they get to meet friends and enemies, and it's basically how they navigate life through the school. So the first book is written through Kat's perspective, and she's this little ballet prodigy, and she just loves dancing. She doesn't care about anything else in the world. She's a bit self-centered, and basically throughout the book you get to see her grow and become this amazing person that you will really like at the end. And then the second book, Journey of a Falcon, it's Alex's point of view, so it picks up where the first book ends, and you get to see a bit more of him. In the first book you only know about him as much that he's just funny, a player, and really easygoing, but in his book you really see his depth, and you really go on a journey with him and see how he grows and becomes a man that he was always meant to be. And those are all the books that I really enjoyed in 2020. I don't think I missed out any, but in case I did, I will definitely make another video, and I will also make another video of all my favorite series that I read and all these things that I mentioned, because I definitely want to go into more details about all the books that I just mentioned the third book of. Please like, comment and subscribe, it would mean the world to me, and feel free to leave your comments down below and let me know what your favorite book was in 2020, or if you have read any of the books that I mentioned and what your thoughts were on them. And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!